Hello to all my story lovers. Welcome back in Story Time channel. Today's story name is Kautilya Caught the Culprit Ultimately by Jaladhar Maulik. Now let's go to the story. It was a late evening in Patliputra, the capital of Magadha. The jingling of dancers' anklets and the sounds of music could be heard from the Pramod Kaksha, the leisure hall of the palace of the Chandragupta, the king of Magadha. This was where the king relaxed after a hectic day in the court. As usual, Maha-Amatya, that is Prime Minister, and Amatyas, ministers, and the other high-ranking officials of the royal court were present in the Pramod Kaksha, giving company to the king. But that day, King Chandragupta himself was conspicuous by his absence. Where was he? Instead of being with his minister, the king was in the Mantra Kaksha, the consultation room of the palace, for King Chandragupta was badly in need of an urgent consultation with the Kautilya, his chief advisor. Kautilya was not only his chief advisor, he was King Chandragupta's friend, philosopher, and guide since his childhood. The king swore by Kautilya's intelligence and wit. Chandragupta was in fact highly indebted to Kautilya, for it was he who had chosen him when Chandragupta was a young cowherd and had gradually transformed him into a great warrior. It was a combination of Chandragupta's physical might and unbound shrewdness along with the Kautilya's unlimited wisdom which had made the former king of the Magadha and the founder of the Mauryan dynasty. For the long time Kautilya had continued to be the king's Maha-Amatya, but with age Kautilya had retired from the post. However, on Chandragupta's request, he continued to be his chief advisor. Kautilya was a great scholar in many subjects, especially so in Sanskrit, economics, and statecraft. He was also an expert in composing sutras and shlokas. Though he was better known as a Chanakya to the common people, the scholars knew him as a Kautilya Deva, who was second to none for his intelligence, power of thinking, and foresight. Kautilya used to pass his time by composing Arthashastra, a handbook on statecraft, economics, warfare, foreign policy, and various other subjects covering almost all aspects of the royal and civil life in a kingdom. Kautilya treated Chandragupta like a son, hence he had a soft corner for him, and Chandragupta too relied heavily on his mentor Kautilya. Whenever he wanted advice on any important matter, Chandragupta would send for Kautilya, and the latter would ensure his immediate presence in the Mantrakaksha to resolve the problem. Once Chandragupta wanted to meet Kautilya in his house, but Kautilya stopped him from doing so as that would undermine the king's authority. Instead, he went over to the palace to meet the king. That day also Kautilya arrived in Mantrakaksha in no time after receiving the king's summons. There was nobody there other than him and King Chandragupta, for strict instruction had been given that nobody should be allowed inside. "Why did you want to meet me, my son?" Kautilya asked King Chandragupta in hushed tone. The king then told Kautilya about the alarming report he had received from the chief master of the mint. A large number of kutamudras, that is fake coins, were discovered in royal treasury. Strangely, these kutamudras were not imitation of smaller denomination but the highest one, the pana. Each panna was made of silver and had standard weight. It had first come to notice of the chief examiner of coins when he was examining the weight of every 100 panas to place them in a proper category for the purpose of correct accounting. Every town in Magadha had punch mark coins with a separate symbol for easy detection and identification to find out which town had failed to pay the taxes. While weighing the same, the chief examiner had noticed that the weight of the every 100 panas were below the standard weight fixed for it. He also found some panas to be lighter than others. Moreover, the symbol punch on the coins was defective too. No doubt, those panas were nothing but kutamudras. What was more alarming was that kutamudras were a fake copy of those panas which were earmarked for Patliputra, the capital of Magadha itself. The pana for Patliputra had the symbol of bull with two distinct horns. In the Kutamudras, one horn of a bull was missing. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the chief examiner reported everything to the chief master of the mint, who in turn had immediately informed King Chandragupta. He also sent a few Kutamudras to the king to see for himself. I was shocked to receive these Kutamudras, said King Chandragupta. That is the reason why I urgently sent for you. I want you to help me find the culprit. Kautilya examined two or three Kutamudras and remarked, no doubt these Kutamudras have been deposited to the royal treasury as a payment of taxes, but it is not possible that so many Kutamudras were deposited as taxes by a single individual. Had that been the case, the culprit could have been easily identified and apprehended. Certainly, these fake panas have been deposited by several persons. More likely, fake panas have been mixed up with the original coins before they went into circulation. It may also have happened that those who have deposited the Kuta mudras were not aware of presence of fake coins among the original. Now the question is, who is doing the mischief? Steep in a worry, King Chandragupta repeated after him, who is doing the mischief? My son, it is not possible to find that out so easily. As I see it, the same punch mark with the same defective symbol has been used for minting all the Kutamudras. I think it is the handiwork of only one person, not two or three. But who is the rascal? Asked the king, somewhat irritated. Don't be so restless, my son. It's not benefiting for the king to lose patience so easily. You see, all the Kutumudras are whole panas. Not a single one is either half pana or a quarter one. Smaller dominations are completely absent. It means the one who has minted these Kutamudras certainly has contact with rich people and more likely with rich businessmen who deal with the large number of whole panas daily. Having said that, this cannot be handiwork of ordinary fraud either. Minting of Kutamudras requires a high level of craftsmanship. Who can have it? Yes, none but an experienced Suvarnakaru, a merchant of gold and silver. Moreover, a Suvarnakaru is supposed to deal with the large quantity of valuable metals like silver and gold. Therefore, it is easier for such a Suvarnakaru to buy a large quantity of silver. Nobody will cast any doubt on him. Any person other than Suvarnakaru will attract attention and is likely to be identified easily. Barely Kautilya had finished his inferences. King Chandragupta stood up and said, right now I shall issue an order to Nagarpala, the chief of town guards of Patliputra, to search the workplace and houses of all Suvarnakaru. None will be spared. Kautilya simply signaled him to take his seat. Don't forget, it is just a guess. He admonished the king lightly. Should anyone be arrested on the basis of speculation only? No. We must have foolproof evidence. Kautilya paused for a while and then continued. Yes, it is easier to search the workplace and houses of all the Suvarnakarus of Patliputra, but its impact would be terrible. Mind you, only one is a culprit. Rest all are innocent, and the innocent ones are in majority. They will become upset and angry. Apart from that, everyone will assume that the Kutamudras have spread all over Magadha, thus creating unrest. Naturally, the subject's confidence of the king's administrative ability is likely to be weakened. Defeated kings and other enemies may take this opportunity to incite people to raise against the king, which would result in more respiration. Understanding the large implication of his outburst, King Chandragupta politely asked, "Then how can we catch the culprit? Let me see what can be done." Saying this, Kautilya stood up, bade goodbye to the king, and slowly left the mantra kaksha. Kautilya's words were reassuring. The king was confident the mystery would be solved soon and the culprit will be caught, as Kautilya himself had taken up the responsibility. In a cheerful mood, King Chandragupta went to the Pramod Kaksha to relax. After leaving the palace, Kautilya returned to his house. Next morning, as usual, he talked to a number of visitors one by one. It was Kautilya's daily practice to meet large number of people in the morning. A lot of people met Kautilya to discuss their problem and to take his invaluable advice. Nobody knew that it was a cover-up operation to meet Kapatika, a criminal investigator. One of the secret agents of Kautilya, Kapatika, was instructed to change his disguise every day for the purpose of hiding his identity. He had to give a signal which alone would reveal his real identity to Kautilya. That day, the doorman found a monk among the visitors. He allowed the monk to meet Kautilya when his turn came. Needless to say, the monk was Kapatika. On entering the room, he first exhibited the sign to Kautilya to reveal his identity. Kautilya then whispered something into Kapatika's ears, who left the room soon after. The next day, Kautilya sent a secret message to King Chandragupta, assuring him that he would be able to catch the culprit, who was minting the Kuta mudras in all probability within 7 days. However, on the fourth day itself, the Nagarpala had arrested the culprit. He presented the culprit before King Chandragupta along with all the implements the man had used to mint the Kutamudras, a few lumps of silver, some fully made and some half-done Kutamudras, and above all a group of witnesses. There was no room for denying the serious charges of minting the Kutamudras by the culprit. The king ordered him to leave the kingdom immediately. Besides, the king issued orders to forfeit the culprit's assets and belongings. But how was the mystery cracked? And how was the culprit caught red-handed? It makes a very interesting story indeed. Nobody had an inkling about except Kautilya and Kapatika. Kapatika started his investigation the way Kautilya had instructed him to. First of all, he tried to identify those Suvarna Karus who were purchasing silver as well as charcoal in excess. Charcoal was required to produce essential level of heat for transferring the lumps of silver into desired shape and form. It was then punch marked with the symbol. Kapatika first collected the information about those Suvarna Karus of Patliputra who in the past 15 days had purchased excess quantity of silver and more than the normal. He found out there were 3 such Suvarna Karus. Kapatika then followed the second step of Kautilya's instruction. He tried to find out among the 3 Suvarnakarus who collected a large quantity of charcoal Out of the three suspects, one did not purchase any charcoal for a long time. That man actually wanted to stock silver in large quantity as it was cheaper. Then he wanted to use it for making ornaments in the coming months when silver would be dearer and thus to make more profit. On the very first day of his investigation, Kapatika had come to know all these facts. Needless to say, every piece of new information was passed on to Kautilya. Kautilya then asked Kapatika to zero in on the other two Suvarnakarus. Accordingly, Kapatika did what he was told to do. He discovered that the second Suvarnakaru had bought a huge quantity of silver and gold because he had received an order from the Mahamatya to make various kinds of ornaments for his only daughter who was to be married soon. Moreover, he was a reputed Suvarnakaru of Patliputra and a wealthy one too. He even used to get orders for supplying ornaments from other towns of Magadha, and there was nothing unusual about his behavior either. On receiving such a report from Kapatika, Kautilya thought for a while and then came to the conclusion that most likely the third Suvarnakaru was the real culprit. No person, Kautilya firmly believed, should be arrested on the basis of suspicion only. Only foolproof evidence could justify the arrest. Kautilya also surmised that the suspected Suvarnakaru would make the Kutamudras only at night lest he caught others' attention. If so, symptoms of night long work should be noticeable on him during daytime. Kautilya then told Kapatika to observe whether the suspected Suvarnakaru appeared to be sleepy during daytime in his workshop, whether both his eyes were red due to working all night long, and was there a presence of charcoal powder on his body, especially in the morning. As the darkness descended in Patliputra, Kapatika positioned himself behind a bush at the back of the suspected Suvarnakaru's house. Kapatika came to know that man's name was a Subhadra. What a name indeed, thought Kapatika, for his bad temper and exchange of words with customers proved that he was not worthy of his name. No doubt he was highly skilled craftsman, but at that time he had lost number of customers because of his rude behavior and repeated failure to supply the ornaments in time. Thus he was facing financial problems. However, the most interesting part of Kapatika's investigation was that Subhadra purchased several lumps of silver and huge quantity of charcoal, although he had almost no order for making ornaments. On receiving all this information, Kautilya advised Kapatika to watch Subhadra very closely all the time, especially during the night and early in the morning. While keeping a close watch on Subhadra, Kapatika realized once again how correct Kautilya's assumptions were. Subhadra was found to be sleepy during daytime and both his eyes remained red, possibly due to night-long work. He noticed the presence of charcoal powder on the Subhadra's clothes and on bare portion of his body early in the morning. To get rid of the unwanted charcoal powder, Subhadra took his bath in the pond beside his house very early in the morning. Kapatika saw that when everybody in Subhadra's house went to sleep, Subhadra came out of his house through the back door. Then he entered his empty cowshed with a big, heavy bag. Peeping through a gap of a window of the cowshed, Kapatika saw Subhadra open his bag and take out various implements for making ornaments and some lumps of silver. A huge quantity of charcoal was also piled in one corner of the cowshed. After entering the cowshed, Subhadra lit an earthen lamp, ignited the charcoal, and went on minting Kutamudras with rapt attention. Before sunrise, he went back into his house with a loaded bag and then took a bath in the pond. Kapatika reported everything he had seen to the Kautilya. Incidentally, it was the third day of his investigation. Kautilya then directed Kapatika to set a fire to the thatch roof of his cowshed the following night when Subhadra was working. But how to arrest him? Kapatika wanted to know. It's none of your business, my dear Kapatika, was Kautilya's curt reply. Do what I ask you to do. Sure, my master, said Kapatika. In the evening, Kautilya sent a messenger to inform the Nagarpala to post several guards around Subhadra's house. As usual, Subhadra came out of his house quietly before midnight, and after entering the cowshed, he started minting kutamudras. After some time, suddenly he heard some people shout outside, "Fire! Fire!" Subhadra discovered that the thatched roof of his cowshed was on fire. Sensing impending danger, he quickly put back everything he had bought into a bag and came out of the cowshed. The cowshed was already surrounded by the royal guards and neighbors. Some of them were busy in putting out the fire by pouring water. As he came out, the leader of the royal guards ordered him to open the bag and turn it upside down. Subhadra knew there was no way to escape but to carry out the order. Dice, anvil, bellows, crucibles, pincers, pressing instrument, punch with the symbol, and a few lumps of silver, some fully made and some half done kutamudras, all came out of the bag. The leader of the guards then handed over Subhadra to the Nagarpala. It was just a 4 day of investigation. The rest happened in the royal court. How the culprit was identified, however, remained unknown to the people. The next day, Kautilya decided to include a few shlokas and sutras on criminal investigation in his Arthashastra, which he was writing. Now, this is the end of the story. Did you like it? Then comment it. Subscribe my channel. Bye bye.